The official offseason is underway for the Philadelphia 76ers. As the Summer League comes to an end, we still await Quentin Grimes and the resolution there, and a lot of hanging out with us where we get to be creative and have some fun throughout the remainder of the offseason. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Monday, presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY and make sure you hang out with us right here on the show all summer, presented by our good people from Rothman Orthopedics, along with Derek Bodner and Kyle Knueppel. I'm Devon Givens, Bree, the president of basketball operations, with us as well, as we're at home base to start this week off. And good that we are to start this week off on this Monday.
I'm overseeing a hospital ward over here. I'm feeling good, and Devon and Derek are. I mean, you can say yourselves, fellas, but
I mean, as we learned in Vegas, it takes a lot of good judgment to leave that city without coming home with an unwanted disease. And I should probably add some clarity to that, but it's a little funnier if I don't, so I'll just leave it out there.
Yeah, just sickness is no fun in the summer, but here we are. And yes, we're not going to violate HIPAA. Thank you, Stream, there in the chat.
That's HIPAA.
But here we are. It's a Mailbag Monday as we get back to some of our regularly scheduled theme days and some things that we talk about. But we're hanging out with you, and we got a lot of questions that Kyle asked for in the Discord, on social media as well. So we're going to run through some of those, hang out with you on this Monday, answer the questions as best as possible, and just have some fun, as we know that things have come to a bit of a close as far as the excitement goes. Last year was a little different, right, Kyle? Where we had, Summer League came to an end, but we were still awaiting could this free agent sign? They still have this money that Derek is talking about. They can go do this. And we found out all this stuff, some of these things kind of late. This time is a little different than what we did last summer.
Yeah, and so there's one big outstanding thing. We could just go on a Kon Knueppel victory tour for that Summer League MVP performance if we really wanted to talk about excitement.
Save that for the big deal.
Come on, an undefeated run through Summer League for Kon Knueppel, because as we all know, wins and losses are the only things that matter.
Except for that first Sixers versus Utah game, in which case wins don't matter at all.
But yeah, so I mean, look, right now it's the reverse of last summer, where it was Paul George right out the chute, and that was night one of free agency. Dr. J is, beating down Paul George's door with Josh Harris so they can, get things hammered out. This summer, it's just waiting and waiting and waiting, and the big move has prevented them from probably making more smaller moves, right? So we have had to analyze the two ways and the minimum signings or near minimum signings, and Quentin Grimes extravaganza just rolls along, fellas.
Yeah, it does. So let's just get right to it, because maybe a Quentin Grimes question does come up somewhere in this mix of our questions. So let's start off with question number one, Bree, and let's run with it. The very first mailbag question, which is Quentin Grimes. When do you think from is it Edgecombe or Edgecombe?
Sure.
Thank you for the
Go with Edgecombe.
Edgecombe. When do you think the Grimes situation will be resolved?
When
August
he and his
11th,
agent start asking,
because that is what I'm going to be.
Money.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to, right? We've
Yeah.
had this conversation many times. It still seems, and to be clear, so it's not becoming like I'm taking the Sixers side on this. I think this is just the case for all these big restricted names around the league, right? I think this is true of Jonathan Kuminga. I think this is true of Josh Giddey. I think it's also true for Quentin Grimes. I think they came in, you don't get to choose when you become a restricted free agent coming off that rookie deal. I think you come in with certain expectations. Certainly Quentin Grimes having a really strong close to the year, moves to a different situation where he can be more of a lead guy, puts up great numbers on very good efficiency, and then gets to free agency and is expecting maybe some suitors or some money that is just not out there, right? And so we've said many times on the show, I can't give you a day or a date or even like a general estimate on time period. I think it's as simple as when the ask comes down, right? And until that happens, and until the Sixers and Grimes are within, the ballpark of one another, just going to be a whole lot of nothing. Because even in, the Giddey and the Kuminga cases, it seems like there's at least like, even if it's inching forward, it's a little bit of momentum. Whenever all the restricted free agency reporting comes in and like Jake Fisher and Mark Stein have done a good amount, it's always just like, yeah, nothing's happening with Quentin Grimes. So I would continue to tell our people, I think we're going to be waiting for a little bit on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've mentioned before the Sixers aren't just bidding against what other teams can offer, which at this point is really nothing more than the non-taxpayer mid-level. But they're also bidding against Quentin potentially taking the qualifying offer and Quentin potentially, being disgruntled, because you don't want a guy who's going to be a fixture being disgruntled. If that just means giving him a couple extra million, maybe you consider that. But this is something that Bobby Marks brought up not too long ago. Players recently who have taken the qualifying offer, it has not worked out financially for them at all. And some of those, like we remember Nerlens Noel, what he turned down like 4 years, like 70, like he turned down a massive contract, ended up getting like $4 million after that. It was a major blunder. And Quentin, Quentin's going to be a good player. This is something that Kyle's brought up a bunch. He's just not going to have the opportunity to put up the same stats. And I will continue to say, well, that $15 to $17 million per year contract, you don't need to put up 23, 5 and 5 or whatever to warrant that contract. He doesn't need to replicate his stats, but if he takes a massive step back in terms of, just how much he has the ball and the counting stats he's able to put up, it's going to, even if he's an unrestricted free agent, I'm not sure he's going to go out there and get that $100 million deal that he is allegedly looking for. So I do think he needs to be practical. I think the Sixers need to maybe budge a little bit and not be like, well, we're going to offer you exactly the most that any other team can offer you and nothing more. Try to keep your player happy. And hopefully this comes to a resolution soon. It would sort of surprise me if we're sitting here in a month and there still hasn't been any movement, because there's very little left that has to change to get this situation unstuck, other than two sides actually be willing to negotiate and come closer to an agreement. So I feel like it should happen pretty soon, which is probably famous last words, especially with this team. But yeah, I mean, look, next 3 weeks, I would guess, but that's just a guess.
Did we all ever settle on a number that is kind of the drop-off point for Grimes? Nobody's putting them under pressure at this point in restricted free agency, but now that that's the case, has that changed your mind on like, here's what you're offering if you're the Sixers and you're still in the same range, or what?
I stay in the same range. Nothing has changed for me, because we saw enough where we felt like at the end of the year, the numbers that we were looking at, okay, we want to see Quentin Grimes come back anyway. And then he did the stuff that he did in the month of March and April, where he averaged, close to 25 points per game, put up those 46 and 44s. We saw something in someone that not only with the ball, being able to be the scorer that he was, but also one that maybe he can play on ball a little bit and help things out to allow things to happen for Tyrese Maxey in that backcourt, do some other things, some playmaking that Nick Nurse wanted to see. And with it just, all right, we know the price is not going to be the same anymore. So even though he's going through it this way, which is his right, and which he should, see what he can get and see if he can get the best that possible offer that he should, I haven't budged off and lowered the number where we were all around that 15 to 17, maybe 18 range at the max for him, because of, if you can score that way, you can score. Yes, it was in a bad situation. Yes, it was for a bad team. But they were running those defenses at him, and they were throwing some different things at him. And there were many games that we all sat together, especially in March, where they had a lot of road games where we all sat together. And he wasn't scoring early because the defense was throwing things off. But what was he doing? He had, 4 points and 6 assists, or 4 points and 7 assists with 5 rebounds. And his turnover numbers were not high. And then in the second half, yes, he was still trying to keep his 20-plus points streak going, that he would turn it up and get his 20-plus that he needed to. but it was more important that, hey, he's not doing the scoring now, but he's doing the other things that are, as bad as his team is, he's still getting them some good looks. They're making them, and that's what you want to see from him. So that's why I really haven't budged off that number, because he's still a good player and he's still young. It's going to be at a decent number. And as much as we've talked about, especially now with Jared McCain and VJ Edgecombe cross-controlled on their rookie deals, where you get him at a pretty decent number, and which is eventually could be traded later on if need be, for something that you can turn into a piece that you might need down the line. This is still a pretty good number in that 15 to 18 range for Quentin Grimes. That is 25 years old, still at a good size. And as much as we've discussed the fact that the ball handling, you can never have too many ball handlers, he has shown that he can still be a pretty good ball handler.
Yeah. No, I was in the 15 to 17 mil starting point range from the jump. My max starting range would have been 20. Anything above that, we can talk if another team came in with an offer that was outside of expectations. Well, there's nobody left who can really offer something outside of expectations. So anything above that, 15 to 17, ideally starting point is, that's sort of my range now as well.
Yeah, just making sure. I didn't know if we had any Scott Borases on the show who are going to hey, Quentin, you're worth 11 and a half now. Take it or leave it.
No, I'm not going to do that, because I think that's I think he's worth 15 mil. I really do, even in a reduced capacity or reduced usage role.
And again, he bet on himself, and in this case, he won. But again, can't fault him for going for it. But let's not get too carried away, and you don't.
Exactly, because you can bet on yourself too. Like, betting on yourself and winning doesn't mean the next bet is going to win. The or a qualifying offer would just be a massive risk.
Yep.
Unless Daryl's just being an absolute a-hole with these offers, which from everything we've heard doesn't necessarily seem like that's the case, but we don't truly know. We don't know both sides and the exact details. Unless Daryl's being an absolute a-hole with these offers, the qualifying offer is not something I would recommend. Let's put it that way.
We do have a minor piece of non-Sixers breaking news during the show. Doug McDermott returns to the Sacramento Kings on, I believe it'll be a 1 year minimum. 1 year, 3.6 sounds like a minimum for a guy who's his experience level, right? So
yep. What is he's like 10 years in the league now, right?
Which is crazy to think about. But yes, so Dougie McBuckets, you are and remain a Sacramento King.
Okay, I just wanted to throw one thing at you guys. Looking at something with the Cam Thomas one, Kyle, you didn't bring him up with the other guys, but he's also a name that's a restricted free agent still holding out, and he was the one that also wants that $100 million. I was reading something where it was pointed out that the couple of the names that he brought up in the conversation of, or not he did, reporting of what he feels like he's deserving of, and it was in that range of where Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, both of those two in particular, got those big contracts the summers that they did from the New York Knicks. And the problem that he is having right now is that that was a different summer. And they saw something, of course. They were in a different space where they were moving forward, and they eventually moved them. But they got enormous deals, and especially the one that Quickley got, 154, I think it was. And people were like, whoa, wait a minute. Even the flashes that he has shown, it just wasn't good enough. And you're just not going to get that right now. This is not the summer, and teams are not going to throw that at you. And especially with the Brooklyn Nets, they're not going to do that right now either. And so it was just something that, thinking of Cam Thomas, where he is, and I don't know any numbers or comparisons that Quentin Grimes has, but seeing that for Cam Thomas and thinking about what we're dealing with right now for Quentin Grimes, I know I didn't have a chance to speak to you guys much this weekend, but I wanted to bring that up to you because of what we were just talking about with Grimes and even the other names that we brought up.
I would say, if I had a piece of advice to Cam Thomas, it's that maybe don't get into beefs with well-known reporters while you're in the midst of trying to secure your next contract. Yeah. And especially don't get into beefs with reporters who are saying, like, here's what I think teams think, and then
the
saying
intel,
something that says basically exactly what matches what those teams are thinking, right? Like I think he's a super talented scorer, right? Like he's certainly got something to his game. You got to give him that. But yeah, like another one of these guys that thinks he's worth a certain amount of money. And I don't even think it's like, so you're right, Devon, in that it's not the summer. I just don't know that it's the league anymore for guys like this to get paid, gratuitous amounts of money, right? We've talked about all the impacts of the new CBA and the aprons. And I just think this type of player, and, throw him in this group of players that we're talking about, restricted free agency, those guys are not getting paid tons of money anymore unless you could be that type of player and you're coming off of like you were a top 5 pick, then maybe you still have enough benefit of the doubt. But when these guys are, they come in less heralded and they're productive, but they're not, franchise driving players, it's tough in this league right now to get really paid as that type of guy.
Absolutely. All right, Bree, let's sneak one more in before we get to the first pause of the day. Get to the next question, which is from Tone. Sixers hurt me. Sixers hurt me. I'm sorry, Tone. With all this uncertainty and injury stuff going on with the team, why are we barely getting Jared McCain updates?
I feel like this guy didn't watch our Vegas content. Like we went all the way out there. Both of us got sick. At least watch the videos.
Yeah.
He still is that favorite, Tone.
So here's what I would say. You're not getting official updates because nobody gives official updates in July unless they're bad. The only update you're going to get that's a press release or like a statement from somebody is going to be bad. And if it's not bad, it's going to be vague, which is exactly what you're getting about Joel Embiid. Like, oh, yeah, he's checking all the boxes. He's working with Dr. Glashow. But Jared McCain, it's, he's been in the gym. He's looking good. He's close to. And I will say, and we talked about prior to Summer League, Jared, I did think there was like an outside shot that he played in Summer League. And I think if they had really wanted to push it, they probably could have. I think Jared most likely wanted to play and wanted to be out there. It was just a scenario where look, we saw how they handled VJ. We saw how most of these teams handled their high draft picks, right? From Ace Bailey to Cooper Flagg to Dylan Harper, Kon Knueppel, even skipped it back-to-back. Like most of these guys get treated with like they're wrapped in bubble wrap after a game or two. So Jared McCain coming off of 6 months of recovery and rehab, and you look at how the games were being played and officiated, nobody was really fired up to throw Jared McCain in that mix. But everything we've heard, and we talked to Jared on and off camera, everything seems to be trending up. So I would not expect to get a formal update until maybe media day in September, but it does not mean anything other than you're not getting a negative update, which is the important thing.
And it was good if you go, Tone, to just check out even the Sixers Twitter account or some other videos that are out there. He's shooting, he's moving, he's running and doing those things. Even when Kyle and Derek were at the Summer League training camp before they left for Salt Lake City, the videos out there, the guys putting it out there. So he's doing stuff. So the updates, that's encouraging right there that he is able to do those things. And as Kyle and Derek mentioned, we spoke to him both on camera and off camera. And it at least seems like he's in good spirits for where he is and on track to getting back to playing basketball for this team.
And he was doing some drills at practice. Like he was going through some shooting drills. Like he seems like he's progressing.
Yep, absolutely. All right, our first pause of the day. We'll come back. We'll check in with you with the rest of your questions. 2 down, 20 minutes in, but a lot to talk about with Quentin Grimes still unresolved, and even
we'll kind of move a little quicker on the rest of these questions.
We sure will, but it's great to be back here with you guys on a Mailbag Monday presented by Rothman Orthopedics. We'll talk to you on the other side with the latest questions. And I need to tell you about Parks Casino, folks. If you're looking for something to do, maybe you took a week off, you have something planned for 4 days, and you just need something to do for that other day. Great place for you to spend that day is simply located in Bensalem by taking the Street Road exit off of I-95 and the PA Turnpike. And that's the great people at Parks Casino. You want to visit the Excite Center. It's one of the many things that I love to do when I do visit my casino of choice, Parks Casino. Again, Pennsylvania's #1 casino and so close to Philadelphia. Very easy to navigate to get to. The Excite Center is the state-of-the-art entertainment venue located inside Parks Casino, named one of the best places to see the country's best comedians and music headliners. That's right there at Parks Casino. All you have to do is visit parkscasino.com to buy tickets for all shows, pregame the shows at their amazing beer garden. It's a great venue, sitting out there on the outside of it, of Parks Casino, with the great lighting coming in during the daytime, the night, the stars and all you can see in the evening. As you sit out there, you can play some pop culture slots, roulette, cards, and other table games you'll love while you wait to go see the show that you decided to go visit the Excite Center for. All right, check it out. I've been there multiple times. The last show I did go see was Deion Cole, and it was great. I would advise you to do the same for whatever show you check out there at, once again, just visiting parkscasino.com and seeing exactly what you want to check out. Make sure you do. It's a great place. Go to parks.com, download the app right now, and you can check out everything. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21 and over. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, so I walked into my garage yesterday, and it felt like a sauna.
I got to tell you, Devon, this Philadelphia heat, especially coming off a cool period, no joke.
All right, so here's what I did. I got like 10 bags of ice, and I made myself an ice bath to stay cool instead of turning on the AC.
But why wouldn't you just turn on your air conditioning?
Well, you know, I was trying to be energy efficient. You know, go green, go birds, right? And a little power dribble. Make sure I stay away from it.
Yeah, but, you know, instead of icing yourself out, you could just check out Pico's energy saving rebates. They've got deals on Energy Star cooling equipment that actually work, and they cut down your bills.
Hold on. So no more ice?
Unless it's an ice cold beer, Devon, we don't need to talk about ice.
That makes a lot of sense.
So everybody just head to pico.com/ways to save. They've got tips for everything. Heating, cooling, lighting, you name it. Don't resort to ice like my friend Devon over here. Look at that outfit change and location change, and the glasses are on. Like, it's unbelievable how super producer Bree makes it all happen like that.
This is great work as always by Bree. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY. We do want to tell you about something that we have coming up here in a few weeks. Hopefully we're all good, where we can all be there and everybody's safe. Our first Sixers film session at the office, live from the PHLY studio from 6 to 8. That will be on July 29th for diehards only. It's a diehard only event, so make sure you are a diehard member so you can come hang out with us. We're all good. We're all going to be good at that time, so we'll see you then.
And look, if we're not all good, we won't show up. It's not like you're going to show up, you know, get a little synergy film, a little video breakdown, a little knowledge, and some long COVID. We're not doing that. We'll all be responsible.
We'll make sure we're responsible, but sign up to become a diehard member at allphly.com. When you do so, you can join us for that event, and we'll have some good times, some drinks, some food, some laughs, and some Papa Shot. All of it will all July 29th, 6 to 8, the first PHLY Sixers podcast film session. So hope to see you there. All right, let's get to the very next question here for us on mailbag questions.
It's a two-parter. That makes it tough. Which one are we focusing on, fellas?
Well, the second one's easiest to answer.
Yeah, so let's start with number 2 from TK76. If the Sixers trade away one of their 4 guards, assuming Quentin Grimes is part of that, who would be the toughest to replace given their skill set?
I mean, I think it's almost always a volume scorer. That's just a skill set that is toughest to replace. It's the one that's most in demand in the league. Because of that, I think some volume scorers end up getting overrated. or overvalued at times. But what Tyrese Maxey is able to do with relatively efficient volume scoring would be the toughest to replace, I think.
It's funny because I actually think, to your point, I might be on the exact opposite end of. I think volume scoring in and of itself is maybe the easiest thing to get in the league. Kelly Oubre scored 20 points a game with unlimited shots.
I said relatively efficient volume scoring.
Yeah, if we're saying efficient volume scoring,
Yes.
that's a different thing. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think anybody has shown enough yet to say you're harder to replace than Tyrese Maxey, right? Like it's just not. Quentin Grimes has like a month and a half of high usage ball, right? Jared McCain's played 23 games. VJ Edgecombe, in theory, is a guy who does everything, but he hasn't played an NBA game yet. So I think by default, it's Maxey, but I tend to think that you can find scorers. I just think if he gets put in a real situation with a real team around him, we'll see how irreplaceable he is again as of the start of next year.
And it's also the type of volume score we're talking about, because if we're discussing, like we just brought up the example of the other restricted free agent player in Cam Thomas, he's a volume scorer too. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lead to winning, where you can see where, hey, Quentin Grimes can impact it this way. Certainly Tyrese Maxey can do both by running a team, scoring the way that he does, scoring bunches there, but also score within the flow of what the team is doing. So if it's not the right type, like these guys know I love a player who can go out there and get buckets. But if it's not the type of player that's going to go out there and get buckets, then it doesn't mean much for a winning situation, especially here with the 76ers. All right, let's get to the first part of that question, which was a little bit longer. What non-starter, potentially gettable player would you eventually target for a trade that would maximize the Sixers' current guard rotation? Either a small forward who helps McCain Maxey, or a power forward who makes 3 guard lineups more viable.
Trey Murphy, a nation turns its lonely eyes to you. No. Well, so it would have to be a wing or a 4 that has at least average, but preferably above average playmaking at the position, which once you get into wing size players, by definition, there are not a lot of guys that are good playmakers. So I'd have to give that one some real thought and chew on that. I think the good news is their opening at power forward is so large that you could probably name like 10 to 15 guys, and it's like, sure, that upgrades the team. It's just because they have a shot to start or play real rotational minutes. I will say it's a bummer that the Pelicans extended Herb Jones, because that takes one of the guys off the table that I think we were probably in on and had talked the most about this offseason. So I'm right now I'm drawing a blank. I don't know about you guys.
You know what? Mine is a little less with the playmaking, but a little bit of it. And I would lean the guy that you've talked about a lot because he has been a non-starter, and that would be the Tari Eason conversation again of how he fits. He does it differently, but he impacts it so well that you could see that stuff translating to what the 76ers still need, where we discuss the defense, number one, but the 50-50 balls, the offensive rebounds, the rebounding in general to help them on the glass. And we've seen it from time to time where while the percentages don't necessarily translate to the argument, but we've seen where he is more than willing to take the shots. And we've seen where he has knocked those down from the perimeter as well. The playmaking himself, where he has done it for himself, he can do that. But then he is unselfish where time to time you'll see him make this pass, make this great bounce pass, make this great play, make that extra pass that will lead to a bucket for the Houston Rockets, that you can see that then also translating to a starter role, more meaningful role, that I could still see that playing out for this example. And he's young enough.
No, Kyle took the one I was thinking off the top of my head. I have to go through and actually check some of these salaries.
I mean, if you were talking less on the younger side and more on, hey, this is a guy who's been around for a bit, Jonathan Isaac would be an interesting one. Now, he's never healthy, and that's
right.
a little bit of an issue, especially on this team. But the defensive upside and versatility is still pretty impressive in spite of all that. So he's only making, I think, like $15 million. So you could potentially get to that number with like Drummond and Oubre's contracts and whatever else you might throw in there. Just a high-level switchable defender who can play a couple positions. That has some interest to me. But yeah, after that, you're really like, that's a tier in terms of the money. You're talking about like the Harrison Barnes types of the world, or if you're on the younger side, it's like a Keldon Johnson who is just not that good, right? Or at least has been disappointing relative to what the expectations have been there. So you're either, I think you have to go one or two ways. You go for more of an Isaac type that's older and at least has some degree of that guy's proven and we know what he's going to do. Or it has to be a Tari Eason where the guy's still young enough and on a low enough number that it's a costlier trade, but you're convincing yourself it's like, all right, we're going to take a home run swing here.
What about the Doug Craig one there where he brings up Rui Hachimura? Still young, can shoot the basketball, put the ball on the floor. It's not a bad name. It would have been better to get him at that price when he left Washington.
Yeah,
where you got him pretty much for nothing. But it's not a bad name, all things considered, for the people that we're talking about here. He's lower than the others, but not a bad name, Doug Craig. All right, Bree.
Another non-passer, by the way. Just
another
a guy
non-passer.
who just does none of that stuff. So, yeah, can shoot the ball and has shot more threes than when he was in Washington, which is a notable change to his game. But
the other guy I was thinking of, if Dallas, maybe because they're having a gap year, wants to lower their tax bill, maybe Najee becomes available. But he's young enough where he's multi-year valuable. But like I said, they have a pretty big tax bill, I think, for a team that's not really going to contend this year because of injury circumstance. So who knows?
Yep. All right, Bree, let's get another one in here. Fly far, fly together. Why is Morey not getting us a power forward now or trying to trade Oubre and Drummond at the moment?
I don't think the issue is lack of trying. I think there's certainly been a lot of discussions about, hey, what can we maybe do with Oubre and Drummond's contracts? I would probably more heavily emphasize Andre Drummond on that front because at least in Kelly's case, they view him as a pretty surefire rotation guy. So I do think there are efforts being made. Unfortunately, it takes two to tango when you're trading people. So that let's just leave it there. And then the other part of it, we've said many times, I just don't think that they're enamored with maybe whoever's out there that's just a free agent and they don't want to use the taxpayer mid-level as far as we can tell, at least until Grimes is resolved. And even then, after it's resolved, not clear that they want to. So I think they're going to see what happens with this guard-heavy lineup, play their wings as fours as much as they can get away with that. Try out Watford, try out Jabari Walker, try out Barlow, give them all some minutes at points early in the season, and then they're going to see where they end up.
Yeah, and to that point of not using the taxpayer mid-level, aggregating salaries in trade, so combining, let's say, Kelly and Drummond, also hard caps you at that second apron, which is something I think Daryl would be much more comfortable doing when you have the certainty leading up at that trade deadline, because you just know, all right, I don't need any more flexibility, so I can give this up and hard cap ourselves. It'd be a little tougher to do in the offseason, but it's even tougher to do when you have the uncertainty over the Quentin Grimes situation hanging over your head. So, like, if you're actually going to get someone who you feel comfortable as a starting quality power forward, you're probably not going to get him for like Andre Drummond's $5 million expiring salary. You're going to have to actually give something up. That might mean, combining him, aggregating him with Kelly or with Quentin at the trade deadline. It just becomes easier to do in January and February than it is right now.
All right, let's take a quick pause here. We'll come right back and we'll get into the big deal, the rest of the mailbag questions on this Monday. Still plenty to get to as we hang out with you on this Monday, presented by, tell you on the other side. It's the good people that, hey, they've been representing us here on the show. Rothman Orthopedics helped us out while we were in Las Vegas, helped us out for our draft show.
Do they have an infectious disease department, Devon? Because it appears you and Derek need that right now.
I can check with my people and find out. And so with that, I can tell people too, if you do need to check out Rothman Orthopedics, you do need to get looked at. And for whatever it might be, a twisted ankle, a bad shoulder, you slept on it wrong, your back is bothering you from all the running that you've been doing in this weather, you got to go check out the good people at Rothman Orthopedics. Rothman specialists are here to treat you for whatever's holding you back. Their top-tier care will have you moving in the right direction and enjoying every minute of the summer. Rothman's 180-plus fellowship-trained physicians specialize in specific areas of the body and a multitude of orthopedic services, including hip, knee, spine, shoulder, and elbow, foot and ankle, hand and wrist, sports medicine, physical medicine and rehabilitation, orthopedic oncology, trauma, and foot care as well. So if you're feeling any of this, or maybe just that simple, not feeling well and you got a cold and got to go get checked out, they do have some urgent care, some walk-in centers that Kyle is speaking of, and you can do so with the 3 in Philly located in Center City, Northeast Philly, and at the Navy Yard, the latest addition to the great people at Rothman Orthopedics. So if pain is slowing you down this season, take that first step. Head to rothmanortho.com/PHLY. Schedule your appointment today. Rothman Orthopedics, your summer, your mobility, their mission.
And guys, just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, you need a home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get it because they have flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Why is Empire Today better for you? The best bet for a new floor? It's because they live and breathe flooring. Unlike those big box stores where you wander the aisles, you're bringing stuff home yourself, then you got to find an installer, got to coordinate everything. They bring at Empire the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring, the right colors for your space. You see how it looks with your furniture in your house. Everybody loves the convenience. You're also going to love the prices. You're going to love the quality. You're going to love everything about the Empire Today experience, because with Empire, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Nobody likes to wait. Get it done that very next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today with Empire, because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code PHLY. You heard right, a $350 discount with the code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics. It's time to tell you about the big deal, folks. The big deal presented by Cherry Hill Jeep. I know people buy Jeeps elsewhere. I just don't know why. Drive home
Me either, Devon.
today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at jeepofcherryhill.com. I don't know why either, Kyle. They need to rectify that problem. But the big deal, for the first time in franchise's history, outside of getting to the postseason, the Charlotte Hornets have won something. And that is
baby.
the 2K26 Las Vegas Summer League. And now Derek and Kyle can tell everybody about the MVP that they all knew, Kon Knueppel.
Up there with legends of the summer, like Trendon Watford, like Cam Whitmore. It's obviously the most important award a young player can win after being taken highly in the draft.
Trendon Watford, he won the MVP? I don't remember. I didn't even remember that.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Watford did. I don't remember. I think Cam Whitmore did. But maybe
I think he
missed
did.
that, right?
Yeah. And Josh Hart.
Kon Knueppel starts the summer league 1 for 8 and still marches to the title game. The undefeated Hornets hits a big time 3 in the final. I think it was like 40 seconds of that game. Push the lead, keep Charlotte out in front. We saw a lot of the stuff that made Kon Knueppel an interesting prospect, and we had a lot of people around here very convinced about who Kon Knueppel is or isn't. There's still time. You can delete your old chat comments. You can go back and maybe just think about being a little bit of a nicer person. It's going to be too late once the season starts, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know. Listen, it's Summer League. Who the hell knows if any of it means anything? It probably means nothing. But good run at Summer League for Kon Knueppel and the Hornets. Congratulations to the Hornets fans for their one and only title in franchise history.
All right. So I pulled it up while you were talking. Last 10 Summer League MVPs. Kon Knueppel, Jalen Wilson, Cam Whitmore, Keegan Murray, Cam Thomas, Davion Mitchell, Brandon Clark, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Tyus Jones.
Honestly, pretty good group.
It's a pretty good group. It's not like necessarily a sign of stardom, in part because stars don't play more than a game or two here, as we saw with all the top picks in this draft. But it's a pretty good group of projecting a role player, at least guy who has NBA skills.
Yep. So, Kon Knueppel, you are the big deal, presented by Cherry Hill Jeep. And if you are looking for a Jeep, we know people buy them, Kyle. Just don't know why. Drive home in your new Jeep today. I have no clue. Just minutes from all bridges are available online 24/7 at jeepofcherryhill.com. All right, let's get back to the questions at hand for this Mailbag Monday. What do you got for us, Bree? Geo of 30-10. Can the Sixers convince Joel to come off the bench and play a maximum of 20 minutes per game?
No.
Thank you. He seemed more inclined to take a lesser role this season in the ESPN article. Some kind of super six-man, start Bona, let him focus on defense. Hopefully we get a lot of points from our four guards and some help from Paul George if he's ever healthy.
A lesser role would mean like 25 points per game, not 20 minutes per game.
And coming off the bench.
Yeah, if you think you're convincing that man to come off the bench, boy, you got another thing coming. And that is not any shot at Joel, right? The guy who just won MVP 2 seasons ago, going to him and saying, hey, you're coming off the bench for Adem Bona would be... I would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
I was going to say, if you're going to do that, at least let us be there to see it. Come on, Daryl. You've been on the show.
Comment up there on the screen. Boots is Joel coming off the bench. You could stop right there. Exactly. That's not happening. Appreciate the question, though.
I would say this from our pal in the Discord. I think Joel has to consider some different approaches, right? But different approach is, what does your offensive role look like? How often are you shooting trail threes and pick and pop threes instead of, ducking into the post or being
Could you please, for the love of God, cut down on the off the backboard dunks?
Yeah,
please.
That's the stuff that, changes to his game, changes to the team are going to look like. Going right to, hey, I'm remembering, you remember the clip of Colin Cowherd, Ben Simmons' rookie year? That it still gets posted. He goes like, all right, LeBron, we're good. We got Ben Simmons over here. That's basically right now. It's, hey, Joel, we're good. We got Janai Broom and Adem Bona. It's like, what are we talking about? It's
now,
still...
to be fair, he does only play like 30 to 32 minutes. He's never been like a super high minute guy. So if you wanted to say like 27 to 30 minutes might be a possibility, it might take a little convincing, but I think that's at least in the realm of having a conversation about. But no, off the bench in 20 is just not, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And we detailed this a lot in that show, talking about the article of the approach. We've been discussing this. The guys did when I was out for the first 3 months. We discussed it then. Again, going into last offseason, even coming off the USA appearance. And we say it now. 25 instead of 33 is still very effective with how you do it. Just help out with the rebounding, of course, the defense. Maybe that jump hook is something that he can put less on his body, because that's just more of getting to your spot. But we know you have that soft touch, knocking that down right there in the middle of the paint. Easy work for Joel Embiid, even in the space that he's currently in right now. I appreciate the question, though. Let's jump into the next one. B. Lil. What up, Lil? What's the best way to enjoy the Sixers season? Just no expectations and pray for Edgecombe and McCain to look good? Guys, what's the best way to approach this season of enjoyment?
I think it kind of depends on the person. What I would say is you go in hoping that the team is very good and that they get good health luck for PG and Joel, despite the fact that they already got bad PG luck this summer before preseason and training camp even start. But you hope for that. You hope for, the best outcomes for all the young guys and that they get Grimes back in. The good thing is, if that doesn't work out, you can fully pivot into, well, whatever. They're not winning a title this year. I don't care about Joel's season. I don't care about Paul George. Just let me see 30 minutes of VJ Edgecombe. Let me see Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain starting together, right? So I think what this will be and what this will look like could change week to week, let alone month to month and like season long. I just think part of the reason I think this will be a fun season, it can't get worse, knock on wood, but unlikely to get worse. But there are just so many different ways to enjoy this season that I don't think you should go in like, it's got to be championship or bust, because that's the mentality that'll get you hurt, right? Because more likely than not, they're not winning a title. But there are still many versions of this year that can be both fun and enlightening for all of us too.
Yeah,
we can learn pretty quickly. We learned fast last year that they weren't good, especially with the injuries. They just weren't good. At least this year, if McCain stays through the entire year, Edgecombe is healthy as well, Maxey, you're going to be competitive out there on the floor. They're going to be entertaining out there on the floor. We lost that a long time ago for the Sixers in this past campaign. So I think we'll get that answer pretty early. And we just hope that for all of your sake, for our sake, for their sake, that they are a much better team that gives us a much better product out there on the floor and some enjoyment. Because like Kyle said, don't go into this season in particular like we did last summer thinking championship. They have to earn that back from you for your trust of them being that championship contending team again. First, be a contending playoff team, because they have a lot of competition in the Eastern Conference this year. But even with that, it's still open for them to reclaim some sort of title to get you back into that space as a Sixers fan. So that would be my answer to that question going into the season.
I do think there's almost something freeing to the weight of championship or bust expectations being lifted off of your shoulders, because that's really where the Sixers have been over the last couple of years, last 5 years or so. And those, that weight of that can be even more pronounced when they've come up short of those expectations so many times. So you have both those expectations and also the negativity that they're not going to be met. And I think that cycle kept going and going and going. Whereas this is nice because you do have 3 young guards who you truly believe in. And you can go back even 2 times, like with Drew Holiday, they weren't competing for anything, but you were at least excited to watch Drew develop. You were excited to watch some other guards develop that we won't mention because they didn't really develop the way you wanted them to. But there was excitement towards that. Now you get both the excitement of the McCain and VJ really additions. I'm going to call Jared an addition, even though he played 20 whatever games, because now you're hoping to get a full season out of him, knock on freaking wood. And also you get the, hey, if everything goes right, which never happens with this organization, but if everything goes right, you do then have a chance to compete. But I think that chance to compete should be secondary to the excitement you have for the young players. So I think it's actually a pretty good mix. Mm-hmm. We certainly don't, 2 timelines don't always work out, but this isn't really 2 timelines because you're not, I know Daryl's trying to compete, but I think most of us coming in the season aren't expecting that. But you do have enough young pieces that you're excited for, and also the whatever % chance that you actually get good health luck and you can get a season that's more memorable than you expected.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree. Let's go to the very next one here on the list. Will says, if and when this team gets off to a crappy start, is Daryl's seat just as hot as Nurse's?
I would be a little surprised if Daryl gets to hire another coach.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah. I would say I don't think it's hotter. I also don't think it's colder, right? Like I think if they were to move on from Nurse in the first couple months of the season, we'll say, that's going to be an internal interim guy unless there is some big name out there that they have some, backdoor arrangement with. And if that's the case, it's not being made by Daryl, and that'll be like a writing on the wall type of situation.
Now, I suppose there is some scenario where like Nurse would get let go mid-season and maybe Daryl at the end of the season. So like maybe it's not as hot if you're using that as a definition, but I think that's, splitting hairs at that point. I think they're pretty well tied together.
Yeah, and I think Daryl has part of his decision-making process coming out of last year was you could let Nick go, right? Like you could break away from this pattern that he's had of holding on to coaches that he's hired for a certain amount of time. Or if you feel the pressure and you think another coach is the difference here, you could have just thrown Nick overboard and say, we weren't good enough. And part of that was this guy wasn't good enough individually, but he chose not to. And so if Nick's not good enough, that's still part of the Daryl eval, right? It's not. I think that was his choice to stick by him, and certainly it's defensible. But now we'll see what he does.
All right, let's get another one in. Yeah, fit another one in here. Appreciate the question, Kylie. Oh, look at Kylie in here. Will James Harden and Joel Embiid ever reconcile? And does Daryl Morey deserve jail time for driving a wedge between the two?
Probably would stop short of jail time. Kylie,
yes.
Friend of the show, by the way. Good to hear from Kylie.
Yes.
When we talked about the Joel article last week, I said at the time, and I do believe this, I think that anecdote or that quote from Joel about the Harden relationship that made it into the story, I think once that gets out there and gets the Harden, I think that at least plants the seed for the eventual reconciliation. And I would also say, if Chris Paul and James Harden can reconcile enough
absolutely
to play on the same team, Joel Embiid and James Harden can reconcile enough to maybe not be best buds or anything, but at least have some kind of relationship moving into the future. We'd say that.
Yeah. No, I don't think that is irreconcilable. And I would also agree stopping short on jail time as well. I do think that is one where, like, I think a lot of fans would have been really pissed off if Daryl offered Harden the max. Now, it's turned out that would have been a better max than Paul George. I don't know if that was predictable at the time, but I think a lot of people would have been really, really pissed off at that. And I think the only way to truly prevent the, James Harden becoming disgruntled with Daryl would have been offering him a contract that none of us on this panel and probably most of you in the chat would have been comfortable with. So,
totally agree. Yep, absolutely. What surprise Chris Paul and James Harden are going to be together again after their exit in Houston. Did not see that one coming.
Weren't James and Kelly also not on the greatest of terms at one point?
Oubre?
Yeah, I thought there was something there. I might be misremembering that, so don't take my word.
That was a different reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yes. We'll leave it at
that. Let's get to the next question. I have time for maybe one or two more here. FLA Sixer. Look at that. Look at that photo there on the image of the
nice Maximus,
isn't it?
Avatar.
Yeah. Look at that. Mailbag. Is Embiid training with Drew Hanlon in LA next month? If not, does that mean it's unlikely he'll be ready for camp? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
Don't know.
But I also don't know that he's not. It's something that we should probably check into.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that one because I don't really know. All we really know up to this point is he has been working with Dr. Glashow a lot. And that's kind of the extent of my knowledge on Joel's offseason up to this point.
And it also doesn't mean that because of in the past he's gone to LA. We also know Drew Hanlon spends time in Philadelphia with Joel too, and with Tyrese Maxey, where maybe if he does, maybe he doesn't have to fly over there, but Hanlon does in fact visit Philadelphia. Who knows? But we'll find out on that one. Thank you for the question, though. And the avatar of our Maxey shirt, Maximus shirt, that's available at allphly.com. If you want to go check out, by the way, you can do so by checking out the Philly Connection for the newer things that we have. We wore some shirts last week on the show, and you can also go get some of the things that are new from the Philly collection at allphly.com. Go to the merch tab there at the top, hit the drop down, and you'll take a good look at all the new stuff that we have available to you. All right, Bree, one more, and then we'll close out the show. Busey49 says, who forces Kelly Oubre to the bench, Watford or VJ? And the vote for Busey is Watford.
I think it probably depends slightly on what time of the year Kelly goes to the bench, right? If it's like in October or November, it's probably Watford. If it's like December plus, I'd say it's probably VJ establishing himself.
Yeah, I'm curious if this is something that they can just rip the Band-Aid off to start the year or not. My guess is or not. I think more likely is you get Maxey, Grimes, Oubre, George, Joel, and that's your starting lineup. And then we'll see how that handles, the rebounding and all the other stuff that we're a little concerned about, but it's going to take some time to unseat Kelly, would be my guess. For better or for worse.
All right, before we go, though, I did want to say something because found out before we came on that Malcolm Jamal Warner had passed away due to an accidental drowning. It was a big, despite what you think of The Cosby Show for the developments that we later learned over the years, that was a huge, huge show. And I know in a lot of our lives, for no matter what neighborhood you grew up in, you watched The Cosby Show, and Malcolm Jamal Warner was a huge, huge part of that. And unexpected, of course, and to just see some of the old videos from the show of him, the famous one with the Gordon Gartrell shirt that Lisa Bonet, his sister, tried to recreate, the $95 Gordon Gartrell shirt that she made for him for like $30 for the date that he was trying to impress his date on. And that one was a tough one to see that one happen. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that as a big fan of the show all those years and a big fan of Malcolm Jamal Warner. When he and Eddie Griffin did the Malcolm and Eddie show, that was funny. And the things that Malcolm Jamal Warner did for a lot of us growing up, like we grew up together. I believe he was 54, so just a few years older than myself. And he grew up in our households, watched him do the things that he did, and I was a big fan. So sad to hear that one for somebody that, again, big for the culture, big for what he did, but not just for our culture, where, again, that show reached everybody's household and brought everybody together. So sad to hear that news today, and I wanted to make sure that I at least said that for myself here on our show today as we signed off. So.
And he popped up all over the place over the years too, right? Like obviously best known for Cosby Show, but was in, if you were to just scroll his filmography, it's just a laundry list of, he was on that show too.
Yes,
like and always seemed like people had great things to say about him as a person. So a real big bummer. You don't want anyone to pass that young. So our best to his family as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just to say that. allphly.com for the remainder of the show. Thank you on the television side.
Almost got it, Devon. Almost got it.
When we're home, we mute you when we do that. So I had to make sure we said something a little bit later there as we were signing off. So let's get to the world famous roll call. I may not be able to scream Boots' name and yell out Boots and all these people today.
You guys rest your vocal cords. This is my time to just name a bunch of names and do the thing, get the job done, and get us out of here. So thank you, everyone, for coming through for a mailbag. Thank you to Jesse Bond. Thank you to Bootzilla. Thank you to Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom? Who, by the way, was supporting Derek and I when Devon took the day off. We love that. It's all in the family, as always. Thank you very much.
Now that I feel the reason why Devon took the day off, I'm not going to say he took the day off because I'm sure tomorrow I'm going to be very grumpy.
You could take the day off.
Hope everyone begins to feel better. Thank you to Martian Lynch. Thank you to AA Ron, to Lost Sleep TV, to Hedfa, to my girl Winona, to Val, to Jess, to Spy Guy, to Brian Knight, to Mellow 3 Point, to Jeffrey Stewart, to Lee Nguyen, SB Cole, Jay of the Jungle, Code Ran in the show chat today, very active Discord member. What's up to Code Ran? We got Corey Morris hanging out as well. Thank you, obviously, as always, to all our mailbag participants. So, friend of the show, Kylie, was in there. We also had, I think, Jeff. We had Busey, Jay Lil, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember all the different. I could scroll back, but that'd be tough to do in the middle of the show. Thank you to Dave P. Thank you to Greeny Green. Thank you to Ty. Whew. Thank you to.
I do want to add one more to the roll call. Thank you to Teacher Got Game for continuing to show us what kind of a coward you are.
Oh, wow. Wow. And Devon missed. The Duck Holiday was very mad at me on Friday. I corrected a few too many grammatical errors. And it.
Okay.
So,
okay.
You're going to come in here and call me an idiot. You better know how to use a contraction. Rick Morse, Jerome Evans, NRS. A few more people probably in here that I have not gotten to. Theo, we love you all. We love everyone, even if you are a lurker just hanging out. Say what? Also in here, obviously. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m., as we are always, Monday through Friday. On the way out, if you could please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live, and hit the thumbs up button as a get well soon to our two very sick boys next to me on the screen, but also as a thank you to super producer Bree holding it all down. That's it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
See you.
We all silly like the mail.